And now we're finishing it up for now, unless you guys just happen to overflow with comments saying, yes, I want to continue this. I mean, I want to continue this, but there's no point making the videos if you won't enjoy them. So give me a thumbs up if you like the adventures of Fratley and want to continue on to the adventures of Lapfrey. But anyway, finishing up for now, fun double second bonus video because the first bonus video ended up being too long and not much of a bonus. But in the future, I'll probably post this before the other one, which is a set now of 4 videos of me reviewing every single monster in the game. It went very over what I expected. I hope you guys do enjoy it if you choose to watch it, but this one is also here as just more of a finale to the original part. Mournford just talks about the fan art. We've got some new pieces here. I'm going to intersperse it to make it a bit more fun. I decided, since the whole fun of Monster Rancher is fusing monsters together, I've made some fusions of some of my favourite monsters with my favourite guy from Dragon Quest, Dr. Snapped. I'm going to be going one of those, one comment on an old fan art, round and round again. So first I'm putting the fan art I've seen in all the thumbnails up here, because I thought you guys would be excited to see that in full resolution. This is actually completely new. I drew it now for these streams. I was just having so much fun looking back on the old images, like, I will see if I can do this better in my current art style. I don't know if I succeeded. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I like some of the old ones a little bit better. But I tried my best and my friends said it was neat, so I hope you guys enjoy it too. The idea was create pre-evolution, like, what if this game had, like, the monsters scaling up and looking a bit older like it did in the original Monster Rancher 1 and 2. So the final form here is the closest base to the actual canon model. The middle one is the fan art I drew of Fratley as a kid before, and the Bean one, the baby, is a totally new design. I also tried to go with the idea of like, oh, maybe he starts off turquoise and he grows into his blueness. I'm glad my friends noticed the detail. The staff is meant to be the same size every time and he's growing into it. I didn't fully pull it off because I'm not very good at spatial awareness and making things look exactly the same proportions every time. It did bug me a lot when I was editing this. I did try and fix some problems I could see, but there's other ones I just, for the life of me, I can't figure out why it doesn't look right, but it still doesn't. I hope you guys in the audience think it looks at least decent and okay. But I'm going on to more like development information and comparing the previous versions and edits and changes I made along the way of this later. That's going to be the big feature of the video, and it would be bad to just drop that immediately at the start. So let's butter you up a little bit first with some wonderful snap images. First we have Panchium or Panchonium, whichever pun works better. It's kind of simple, just I couldn't resist Pancho, but it's the Darkonium. I just really wanted to draw a snappy snapped form in that kind of bean style. Also notice all the drawings of Snap are not as heavily edited as the thumbnails for Fratley. I haven't gone over and fixed all the little lines. It took me like days and days and days to make everything as perfect as possible, so I had to at some point go, this is where I'll stop, this is where I'll stop with the perfectionism. It's going to be on the entirely optional things that are only going to be shown in one video. So I hope he still looks lovely. I really liked drawing the mouth and a little face, a little wiggly arms, and the shading of a Darkonium slightly on the inside rim. And I imagine it's like regular Dr. Snap holds out the Darkonium, it opens up as a little Dr. Snap instead. He holds out a smaller Darkonium, it opens up as an even smaller Dr. Snap, it continues on forever, and that's his ultimate attack. If he had remembered to use this, then the villains would have won. And now our first section on the first fan art I ever did. This design for Fratley, I think this was after the first stream, so around halfway through year 2. Oh, just an incidental trivia, all of these have been cleaned up. Originally the quality of these images was like really grey and yellowish. It was on a non-white colour of paper, just some old bad sketchbook I had. So that's why you can see some little smudges and fuzz around the edges. That's me doing a poor job editing in the white. Anyway, I really like this. The whole concept behind it was I'll try and interpret this design and stylize it in a way that slightly makes it feel a bit more like a fusion with Falco, while also giving the personality that Fratley had in our streams. And also just, yeah, this is a kid version of him. At the time of making this, I had not actually imagined what he'd look like as a baby and an adult. I'm not sure what inspired me to change the design of the wings on the staff and the spikies and stuff, but as you can see, it's very sketchy. That's the only unfinished part of the drawing. I had to basically make up an entirely new thing for the final fan art. I could not remember what I was trying to go for. It was not originally intended to be a secondary stripe along the wings. It was just, that's 2 designs of wings I drew over the top of each other and forgot to erase. But it worked out well, so the final version does actually have that. And the rest of the design here is just, okay, what would that face look like if it was chubby and round and chibi? I gave him more of like a little snoot. I did obviously take inspiration from the Burmesians in Final Fantasy IX. I don't know if I ever explained that in the Let's Play, did I? They're just like a really creative and cool design for Anthro rat people, and their fur just happens to be blue. You can really see how the nose in particular looks super similar to the monster, right? And I think I picked Fratley over Freya, who's like more of a major character, just because he has some yellow on his outfit. And this dude has a really tragic backstory in the game. Almost none of that carries over to our Fratley character in the actual Let's Play, so it wasn't relevant to bring up, but I will greatly recommend playing that game. It's a wonderful game. And actually with the face here, I kind of made up a lot of it. Just from playing in game, I could not really make out what the face was. Obviously I knew he didn't have big kid eyes, but I think I genuinely thought he did have these little like Chinese spirit eyebrow things. As I later find out during the monster reviews when I figured out how to rip the files, it's actually that they're just circles like drawn on his head for no particular reason, or like they're natural markings, I guess. And he also has yellow eyeliner which is completely invisible during normal Let's Play. And that's a shame because I like the vibes. I would have drawn that into the design if I knew. But in the realm of intentional choices, the more Falco-ish elements were, let's enhance the amount of feathers he has on his elbows, let's make the hands a little bit more bird claw. That's still canon in all the other fan art, it's just that the angles I was showing him holding the staff, you can't really see the full finger. They're still spiky claws. And I totally changed the torso here because I just felt like, oh, the canon one where it's like a bodysuit of a slightly medium buff guy just doesn't make sense for a child. Maybe he has more feathers when he's young that cover it up, and then he sheds them when he grows up. So I just made this totally random design because there were some indistinct markings on the chest I couldn't really make out, like, oh, that bit's dark blue, oh, that bit's black, I don't know. I just made up and drew a totally different thing. Here's a fluff of feathers with 2 white dots in it. Oh, it's funny, it looks like eyes, it's not actually eyes. You'll notice they became red in the final art. I just decided that looked better while making it. And then that just connects as like a bow tie into this fluffy dress tunic thing, which would conveniently cover up the entire body. So yeah, that's the story of the first fan art. I still really like it. I'm really charmed by how I did the face. I feel like I couldn't capture the face quite as cute in the final version, but maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the power of nostalgia. I love him. Oh, and hey, did I say by the first inspiration for the bow tie thing, actually, I think it was because we kept buying Fratley so many scarves during the gameplay, and did I attempt to draw the scarf and I couldn't draw the scarf, or did I just decide this would be a more interesting design for the scarf? It ended up as a bow tie instead. And also biologically part of his skin. Oh, and there was never another end to the staff. It's always cut off that way, there just wasn't enough room on the page. Next Snappy! Dandy Lily. A pun on dandelion, obviously, but also just the dandy fashion style. And I think lilies tend to be purple. I did not actually look one up as reference when drawing this. I was really torn between, like, oh, if I use the modern plant and it has just the one flower, like, I make the flower the hand, more of like a thematic fusion instead of literal, like I have like a skeleton hand or like a robot hand or something, but like, I might have a bit of overlap with the other ones. And I was like, I really do prefer the old plant with the 3 heads, and it could be charming and goofy, and I just end up going with, I've just drawn a bunch of Snap traits onto the monster, and then it just kind of coincidentally worked out, and like taking Snap's one hair curl and multiplying it the whole way around to be feathers, it kind of looked like Mozart hair or something, so I turned it into a dapper musical gentleman themed monster. And of course it's just, it's a quirky, funny, surreal kind of scary idea to have like just the mouth and the nose on the body, and then all the rest are just the eyes with no mouth and nose. But I thought it would look a bit boring if it was just us. I put this little stripy pattern where they would have been. Oh, and fingers. Fingers. I could not resist. I like doing a good mix between cute and spooky. And it has freckles just to kind of like bring the colours of the design together. I do think they work really well complementary, the colours from both of his different forms. And then further insight on the little chibi mini fan arts. I think these were made at least one day, several days after the stream. They're all various jokes on moments from the stream or memes and comments that I had with my friends on the Discord afterwards. Unfortunately, I can't find the ones that were Discord comments because obviously it was so long ago and I don't remember the exact phrasing. I could find a Praise Fratley button because we just know it's called the Praise Fratley button. It's on the image. But aside from that, completely clueless. This one here, I kind of forgot what the robot golem looked like and scribbled an estimation from memory, and I think 0 traits are actually there. I also kind of bungled Fratley because he's so small. He looks more like an elf here wearing a hat, but he does have a unique charm just having the simple chibi eyes. Oh, and banana fritters and fighting the golem were both drawn on the same piece of paper. The other two, evidently a different time of day. I have more to say at least about the last one. I'm going to make up a design for Baby Latry. I still really like this design for Baby Latry. It does diverge quite a lot from the actual canon design. It's a bit less Dragon Dog and more just spooky. And I think I was doing that on purpose because it did bug me a lot. It looks like a dragon subbreed and it's not. I really liked how I did the eyes. And I just thought, hey, baby version of this, maybe they're really chubby. Haven't grown into their legs yet. And then this was the only design reference I had for adult Fratley. I just scribbled this up off the top of my head. There wasn't really much thought going into it. Like, he'll look like the canon design when he gets older, and I guess a bit more noodly to keep a bit more of his personality in. You can see I missed a lot of details, like on the circle thing on the head. It's very scribbly. We don't have the vaguest concept in the back that he might gain more feathers. But the one thing I couldn't keep from this into my final redraw of it is, I don't know why, but I really like how the nose looks. Like, the slightly wonky nose. I tried so much to constantly redraw the nose. It would always end up being, like, always a little hooked downwards, it's a little hooked upwards, like, gives a whole different vibe to it. This perfectly triangle Dorito-shaped nose is the peak to me. I think it was inspired by the demons from Stretch Panic. I just could not summon up that energy again. So yeah, it's the only comments I have on those little fan arts. Smaller section here. Have another snap. Here's another one where I was thinking about how could this work as its own separate monster, not just Dr. Snap. So I thought of the most lore of this one out of all of them. This is a Zan that was originally designed to be like a hospital assistant. They were like, let's make a version of our battle mutant android artificial bug thing, but for intelligence-based jobs. And so a company manufacturing these things lied and said, like, we've just invented a really human-like intelligent AI, but really they were making the monsters by fusing them with actual human DNA. So they've got this quirk of, like, looking all sleek and modern and harmless and doctory, but then random bits of human flesh will, like, grow from them like tumours. And this corrupt company had to, like, constantly keep chopping it off to preserve this perfect stylized image for the public and make no one question the fact that they were, like, fully sentient beings being enslaved. So I thought this could be interesting as an NPC. Like, the evil company has been toppled, but things are still in the works of legislation. Like, are these categorized as monsters or humans or a new thing in between? So you could have one of these as an NPC who's, like, a rancher instead of an actual monster and dealing with the existential horror of, like, ranching other members of his own species which are not fully sentient. Runs an adoption centre for Sans rescued from sadness who never have to fight again. I particularly like what I did here with making the hair all polygonal, more like the beta design of Dr. Snap. I want to give the impression of the face where it's all kind of drawn on. And then going on a gradient here from like the sterile whiteness down to like the regular black or the regular Zan, and then little bits of the flesh creeping in. But then contrasting that with like the biggest source of the flesh is just right there. I thought it would make it a visually striking design. Oh, also it's named Hakaze, which is just professor or doctor in Japanese, because I noticed a lot of the Zans just keep a Japanese name even in the English version. I wonder if that's on purpose to give them like a ninja or samurai kind of feel. Like, either way, there you go. And then here, woo, we get to talk about the big triumphant fan art. Actually, let's throw in the screenshot I had there of the in-progress sketches. This actually started with only drawing the baby in the final form, and the middle one, because that's the one I'd already designed previously. So initially I thought, oh, I'll just colour in the art I already had, but then I thought, like, oh, the line weight wouldn't really match. I can't actually find the physical copy of the drawing to colour it in with the same markers, so would it look weird if only one was digitally coloured? And then I realised, oh, I didn't leave enough space for the final one, so that's why the pose is a little bit boring and the staff is in the opposite direction for the child. I did originally think, oh, the staff will always be pointing in that direction, so it'll just look nice stylistically on the thumbnail. So that's why I decided to have my Sona pointing in the opposite direction. So it makes the thumbnails then go like left, right, left, right. I did also consider a different pose for the child, the nice one he has in-game where he holds the staff over his head in one hand and spins it. 2 reasons that didn't work. 1, not enough space. 2, I just can't draw really complex poses like that. But anyway, talking about the main thing, I just thought it'd be really cool if every episode of a stream had a different life stage of Fratley, and I started drawing this when I was halfway through editing. Like, it's definitely going to be 3 episodes, and it ended up being 4 episodes, but the first one's an intro anyway, so it makes sense to just not have the image. It worked out. It's a shame that, like, just because of how the layout of the graphic worked, I couldn't, like, make him really big on the thumbnail, otherwise I cut off half a design, but, like, does it work okay showing the full body like that? Anyway, here's the whole thing if you wanted to see it in closer zoom. And I thought it'd be fascinating to show is the unedited plain scan straight from like markers on the page. I ended up making quite a few edits, and that's why it took so long. I was just like, oh, I'm nitpicking, like, oh, I couldn't get the colours quite right on the markers and all these little details. Oh, the face could have been better. So you know what we thought? Let's analyse the differences between the final and the penultimate, almost coloured. That will be our next and final long section to end the video. I have so many trivias on tiny little fluctuations of eyeballs. But first, one last snappy. It's the final snap down. And this is the one I put the most thought into. I really want to have one of them be that kind of like thematic fusion. Like it's not literally the two things and what they would look like together, but it's like aspects of both and combined how they might become a new thing. And I was thinking like, it's weird we've never had a boxing Suezo who just bounces on a little boxing glove. That would seem like one of the really basic ideas you could easily do for this design. So then I was like, what's a boxing related thing which has a similar hairstyle to Dr. Snap? Ashita no Joe, or Tomorrow Joe. It's the very famous boxing manga with a sad ending. Not going to spoil what happens, but I will say it feels very thematically in line with how things ended for Dr. Snap himself. So we've got here, the hair is more like that character. I liked the little hat he wore sometimes and on one of the covers. I didn't go off and like read the whole manga as research just to draw a Suezo, but I did have a look at a little bit of it. We got these little sideburn whisker lines here because I liked how they draw his eyebrows and those little lines, but obviously a Suezo doesn't have eyebrows, so I had to put it somewhere. And I kind of went like, oh, with this colour scheme, it's giving a bit more like scene kid, emo kid, as well as obviously boxing guys. So I kind of leaned into that and had that in mind while crafting it all around. And these little flicks of the hair on the side to add to the appeal. And it's like based on the championship belt. Again, I saw on one of the covers, but I made it look more like an emo bracelet, I guess. When you think about it, a Suezo's tail, is that an arm or is that a leg? It could be both. And the eye obviously is a reference to Dr. Snap has white eyes, but the particular way I drew it here is like, that could also be a reference to the ending in a way. And this is the only one I've got some extra detail of it from the back, because I thought it would be cool if it has the lace-up pattern from a baseball glove just on its back and it looks like a little flower. But I couldn't figure out a good angle to show that while also showing all the design on the front. And that is all the sneeze I have for you todays. And now here we go for the bigly big section. All the little tiny changes between the original drawing and the scanned and edited one. Starting off with a comparison of Baby Frat. First up, talking about design elements here, obviously the whole premise is just Fratley but baby. I wanted to show that he's so small he's got to wrap his entire body around the staff to hold on. Like the majority of him is just a big head, hat, slug, floof thingy. And then I took reference from the I Love My Punch Sun drawing. Like I just kind of scrawled him with barely any details. I've made a more detailed version of that. He is just one continuous lump with not very distinct arms and legs. Just little chubby fingers, and you can barely see the legs poking out of what is now a full dress made of bow tie colours. I thought that was a cool idea. Like, he starts off fully black pelt of feathers, he sheds them and it grows into striped blue and dark blue. You also notice in the child, the dark blue stripes are the same colour as the main blue on the final. I was like, that's where it first comes in, and then it fully sheds off and becomes the bodysuit coat type thing. And now changes. The majority of edits I made were just like, oh god, when I scan it in, I zoom in a bit more, I can see, oh, I went outside of the lines here, oh, this line's a little bit sketchy, or this line doesn't fully connect, this line connects a bit too much. And I went and I gave this comparison to my friends, and like, one of my friends was like, it's the same picture, and the other friend was like, well, I guess I can kind of tell that the lines are better, but I'm not sure how. I worry if maybe I was getting a bit too picky about tiny details that nobody else particularly care about. But I feel proud that, like, because I care about this character so much, I put so much dedication into making it the best I possibly could, and I hope that pays off. So to zoom in a bit more and try and show you guys what I mean about these apparently really hard to see bad bits. Here, the yellow pen slightly went over the foot, and I couldn't even tell that on the physical piece of paper. Like, it's so pale, but when you scan it in, all these details come into focus. And here I went out the lines 4 times! Here's a tiny crease in the page. I went over that line twice. This isn't perfectly spherical. Here's a little stray dot. But nobody noticed this bit here where I drew the square twice over each other. I didn't notice when I was making it. None of the two friends I tested this against noticed, but to me it's so blindingly obvious. I guess it might just be when you spend hours upon hours working on making something as best as possible, you obviously see a lot more, and people are going to be looking at it for less than 5 minutes. Nobody also caught this bit where a tiny piece burnt burger had fallen on the page and gone into the scan. I didn't notice until the very end of editing. I was like, oh, well, I could just re-scan it, but I'd have to restart editing it all over because you can't like perfectly align it around. It has to be at exactly the right angle. So I just drew over the burger piece. But it's just really funny to say it was there at all. There is an inbuilt burger concealed beneath the forehead. Oh, would Fratley enjoy a burger? That's a wonderful mental image. I also completely redrew the little thingy on his forehead, as you can see here. I'm not very good at doing perfectly measured circles. You can also see that changed on the goggles. But in this case, one of the wings was slightly smaller than the other, and I again slightly went over with one marker pen, so that's all fixed. But one thing I really liked that my friend Abby noticed, and she was like, is this a mistake? Am I being bad by pointing out you might have made a mistake? Is the lines for this bit in the middle of the staff are less thick than the outside lines. I was like, no, that's correct. It's meant to not look like it's actually riveting out from the thing. That was my design flourish, I decided, because the staff in game isn't this detailed, and I didn't have a high quality rip of the model at the time to check. So I just decided to interpret it as, it's a big flat thing, but it's got the pattern drawn on of multiple layers of feathers. They don't actually emboss out in any way. So by making the lines thinner, I thought it would make it clear. I feel so complimented I actually succeeded, but it does bug me. This one line here I've only just noticed, it looks a little bit thicker, so one part of it is beveled out. Oh, I'm not going to go back and fix it and re-edit every single thumbnail because you can't even see it at thumbnail resolution anyway. But you see, even when I'm focusing really, really hard, I'm going to have some little problems I might miss. Also, I made the shading a little bit more shiny on the beetle orb thing. Hooray! And I slightly touched up the colours because the marker pens I had weren't exactly what I needed. You'll notice across all three of them, the skin tone gets a little bit lighter. That was sampled from the game. The closest marker pen I had was like medium purplish grey. And then on the final form, since that is based on the actual model, pretty much every colour there was sampled correctly. But we'll get to that when we get to that. That's, I think, all the details I can notice for this one. And now the medium one. I don't have any big design comments on this one because it is like the baseline of comparing the other two too. So let's skip straight to how did I fix it in post. We've got more changes this time. Hopefully they're noticeable enough and hopefully they do indeed improve the design. I'm still really self-conscious. Like, should I really have put all this work into it? Was I just wasting my time? Anyway, I think personally that the colour balance looks a little nicer in the edit. I worked really hard on that. I changed the shade of the turquoisey blue to be like a more precise in-between of the full blue of the final form and the full turquoise of the first form. And I likely redesigned what's going on with the fluffy shirt thing I put on this form. Oh, maximum mind wave. What if it's like gradient stripes that slowly go into the colour that will be his final colour in his final form? Also, I made it, he has 1.5 rings on his ears. That's a detail that so the last bit went, that would look a little bit better, that would. First form, 1 ring, second form, 1.5, final form, 2 rings. It doesn't matter at all to anyone except me, but to me, I look at it and I go, that's an even cuter lad. I decided since this section is actually pretty long, I'm going to break it up, and also I forgot to talk about my Monster Rancher Sona. Me as a Monster Rancher. But we have no canon designs for what that would look like. Every single Monster Rancher game, your protagonist is just a nameless, faceless person who you can decide everything about. You don't even get an example image. So I instead just decided I'm cosplaying my favourite NPC. Colt has a funny hat in this version. I love it. There you go. I don't think I got the angles perfectly right on the hat, but it looks okay. I also felt self-conscious about like, oh, people in one of the eyes was a slight bit over too much to the right. But I don't think anyone would have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out. And then I just threw I'm holding a pitchfork so you can tell I am being the rancher, I am not just actually being Colt. I think it worked out okay. I think my hair colour looks good as a contrast to the mostly red outfit. I don't have any previous drawing stages of this, it just went through the same editing process as the Fratley ones, but there was no particularly noticeable huge mistakes that I fixed. Just the one thing I already mentioned in the review video, I forgot that Fratly gave me a leaf towards the end of a Let's Play and I cried forever, so I put the leaf on the hat. By sheer coincidence, suppose I was doing already fit with having a leaf. I didn't know that beforehand. Shocking breaking news! Last minute, like right when I was editing this video, Christmas happened, and my friend Demo Real System, the same person who was like, I can't see between these images, gave me a gift of a fan art of this design of me. They do commissions for squishy chibis, so if you want your character looking exactly like this, I'll be popping their contact information in the description. You can buy them a Ko-fi and get these. They're wonderful for emotes to use in Discord. I have like 5 of them, and probably about 6 of Dr. Snap as well. And I just really love it. They're great at putting in so much tiny detail, even into such a small thing. Like, they've got every single bit of a leaf, and I'm really impressed at the pocket pants. They even made the anatomy of the hat, like, more on model than I could in the whole full-sized thing. I love my friends so much. It really brightened my day. And now, moving on to the final, this is the most based on the actual canon designs. I tried to diversify it a little bit more than the original drawing, and there's a smallified vestigial version of the bow tie versus before it just had nothing. I made it kind of look like a butterfly. And the primary motivation here for changing things was, how do we make this actually look like a Falco fusion? I didn't quite nail it on the child form. I have to really go for it. So we've got this full feathery crest around the circle thing. We've got the elbow feather things now ascending to a full wing on the wrist instead. The join in between the bodysuit looking thing and the legs has these little feather patterns to imply that, yeah, it's still just part of his skin, it's not actually an outfit. I also extended the black line to go all the way through the leg rather than just stopping around a circle. So I thought that really tied the design together. And then the main thing here is unfortunately something you can't really see because it's obscured by a lot of the rest of the design. I extended the inexplicable, no particular reason cape thing on the back to, oh, now it's made of feathers. You can slightly see that already happening in the previous tiny sketch. I did draw a little tiny burst of feathers at the back, but I've made it a full part of the coat. I did feel a lot more confident about this when I got so many positive responses from my friends, even though I was feeling a little bit, it's not exactly how I imagined it in my head, but nobody else knows how I imagined it in my head. And Final Form had probably the most changes overall. A recurring thing you'll probably notice all of them is that I'm not very good at drawing perfect circles. I very much fixed up the circle. The staff was also a lot more sketchy in this one because I was just running out of space. That's why, as you can see, I had to redraw in the bit that was cut off. And I tried my best to fix, again, the angles of it. I can't tell, but to me, somehow it looks wrong, and I hope that in the final version it looks a bit more right. It looks like it's bending in the middle where he's holding it, but I couldn't figure out what and where was causing that to look like that. So I hope I fixed it. You guys can tell me if I succeeded or not. It was hard to draw it at this kind of different angle. And you also know that this one is the most eye dropped of the actual colours from the actual model in the actual game, because this is his final form. It's the only one fully based on the actual game. So that's why the jumpsuit looking thing completely changes between the sketch and the final. I misremembered it as not being kind of purpley. I also subtly changed the colour of the hat swooshy back of the head thing. Simply because I realised, oh, this design with all the extra flourishes I've added to it, the fact like, oh, there's a lot of just the plain blue of a skin over each other, it doesn't look as good now because it really muddies up the details, like where does this start, where's the head start, where do the arms begin, etc. So I just made it like one shade slightly darker than the rest, so it looks like shading, hopefully. It doesn't look like too much of an inconsistency on the design. I redrew the right side goggle because the angle of it was bugging me. And a big elephant in the room is the face is totally different. I don't know, the original intent I had while drawing was like, oh, let's just make Fratly look really cool because he's all old and grown up now, but I felt I lost a bit of his personality in the process. And I was also like, why exactly am I drawing him with a plain mouth now? It's just because the original sketch drawing I was working from had a plain mouth. I knew I drew and designed him with having a squiggly fang mouth from the first drawing I made of him. And I don't know why that one particular doodle didn't have it. I think I was just like being lazy and sketching fast and I missed it out. I'm like, why am I now, 5 years later, being beholden to the rules of a sketch that I clearly made a mistake on? Why did I draw this? And I think I was just too in the zone of drawing it exactly correctly the same. So I went, oh, the fang mouth is back now, and I think it suits him so much better. But it was really tricky trying to get it to work precisely the right angle. Like, I can't change the rest of the face to match it up. I might have just done a different pose to show it off better, but I didn't want to redraw the whole thing. And I actually made 2 mistakes based on that scribbly art. Because I was drawing them out of order, I did the middle one last. I totally forgot that he had those cute little cheek markings. But I caught this one a lot faster, and you can see here it was in the middle colouring stage. And then also I just made the eye a little bit taller, and like, yeah, it gives a bit more of his cute personality in there, while still having the proportions to show that he's gotten a bit older. I feel that the original eye was like too serene, too cool guy, too like, I've lost all my cuteness in the war, I am now badass through and through. And no, I think Fratley would keep his smile and optimism. Right to the end. Oh, I'm getting the feels. It was really genuinely really great to go through and make all this. Even if it took me a hell and a half to finish it, I do not regret a single moment. That's my boy! And that is all we've got today. That is the end of me finding an old video of a thing I did and hyper-focusing the fuck out about this game for about 2 weeks. Yay!